Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. This is your host Vaibhav. In today's session of Daily Stock, we are going to consider the financial earnings, the financial results for the fourth quarter of this fiscal year for the HP Inc., which is the personal computing and printing division of the Hewlett and Packard company. We had the breakup of the prior company, and then new two verticals were separated into two new companies which are independently listed on the stock exchange with HP Inc. now incorporating the personal systems and printing segment. So these two segments have been under pressure for last couple of quarters, and we are going to see how things are shaping up for the HP Inc. to see if there are any emerging opportunities for us to look into and exploit in the coming quarters. So let us now head to the HP Inc. press release. These earnings were released just day back, and since then there has been rally in the share price of the HP. We have seen the market reacting positively for the HP Inc.'s earnings, even though there is a revenue decline in the year-on-year terms, but the net income has risen as companies' efforts to cut cost seems to be bearing fruit. And also there is sequential growth in the revenues for the fourth quarter. And also if we look at the forward guidance, the company is expecting the revenues to rise further, and also there is a build up for the release of PC, which will be able to carry out the AI systems task. We will be able to have these much awaited PCs in the market in the second half of next financial year. And even though the company is not really expecting immediate uptake in the sales, but still there is going to be quite a lot of scope, and many in the consumer segment are going to want to have a PC which can have the AI abilities, and that is where the wave is likely to translate into substantial revenue growth for the company. But it is of course going to take time, and the company is targeting the year 2025 to be a breakout year on that front. Now we are going to consider these earnings first, and here if we consider the EPS, the EPS has risen for this quarter in terms of year on year. And if we look at the earnings of the company for the same quarter of last financial year, then the HP was in loss. Now things seems to be turning for the better, and we have almost $1 billion of net profit for the company, where the printing segment is contributing handsomely. There is larger margin in the printing business compared to the personal systems segment, where the net revenues are higher, the total revenues are higher, but the margin is slim at just little above 6%. Whereas in the printing business, there is a margin of almost close to 20%. So that is translating into higher net profit for the print segment, even though the revenues are almost half of what the company is bringing in from the personal systems. We will consider the consolidated income statement. So here it comes. Net revenues now stand at $13.8 billion for the quarter ended October 31st, 2023. So there is sequential growth if we compare it to the July quarter for the 2023 when the revenue stood at $13.2 billion. And if we go back in time to the October 31st, 2022, then there is almost 10 percentage point decline in the net revenues. But interesting thing is, even though the revenues have declined 7 to 8%, we didn't really see the company sliding further in losses. Rather, there is this revival where the company is now able to bring in almost 1 billion of net profit even on this reduced income because the cost of revenues have declined substantially. So the company has been able to implement cost cutting measures. So that has translated into a better margin, better EPS. The cost of revenue stood at 10.8 billion, whereas for the same quarter of last year, the cost of revenues were at 12 billion. That is significant reduction in these challenging environments. Total cost and expenses were at $12.8 billion, with net earnings standing at $974 million compared to the 23 million worth of loss last year. So this is pointing to the ability of the company to survive and thrive in this challenging environment where the PC business is stagnating. There is growth, but only so slight growth in the printing segment. And in this kind of situation, if the HP has been able to cut its cost and plan the strategy to revive, I think that is good omen, and we should keep an eye on the share price of the company. And if we look at the 2 days of price movement in the shares immediately after the release of these quarter's earnings, you can sense the positive momentum building up, the bullish momentum building up, and we have already seen it opening and then to some extent holding on to the recent gains. And I feel in the short term we are going to see a positive move, a bullish move in this stock, and all we have to do is keep looking for trade optimization where we can cut cost and try to make sure that in the eventuality of we being on the right side, we should be able to maximize the profit while at the same time making sure that if our expectations don't really burn out, and rather than getting the decision right, we get it wrong. In that eventuality, we don't really want to lose too much money. So we will have to also look for entry points at such point in time where we have a favorable risk reward ratio. So for that, we are going to also consider the technical side once we wrap up these statement quarterly statement from the HP. This is a consolidated statement of earnings for the whole year, 12 months, and there is substantial decline on the revenue front for the whole year, with this decline almost coming close to 15 percentage point, with revenue declining from US dollar 63 billion, almost 63 billion, to 53.7 billion. Last year, the EPS was at 2.98 diluted, and now it is almost 10 percentage point higher. And for the next quarter, the company is expecting this positive momentum to sustain, and we can expect that as per the guidance we are going to see, or we are likely to see, the revenue upward of US dollar 14. Now let us see how things are shaping up on the technical side for the HP. With this positive momentum, we have already seen the share price also seeing a bullish up move, with it inching towards the US dollar 30 mark. It did rise beyond US dollar 29, but it couldn't really sustain. And from those higher levels, there has been some correction, but I feel we still have to go with the flow and keep looking for the opportunities to buy. So for next session, it will be interesting to see if these gap up and the move on the higher side sustains or not. If the HP share price consolidates in the vicinity of 29 for next couple of days, we can indeed go for the long trade with the expectation of the HP climbing past US dollar 30 mark. But if it again dips toward US dollar 27.7 level or 28 thereabout, then I think it will be better for us to simply sit on the sidelines rather than thinking about initiating a long trade. So the takeaway is, if you are a short term trader, it is imperative to see that we don't really see further correction from the current levels. Rather than that, things stabilize and also show some upward momentum. But if it doesn't really turn out that way, then we will have to make a new assessment and sit on the sidelines. For the daily time frame charting, there is no clear cut bullish trigger, bullish momentum in the HP's share price, which have been rallying after making a low just little lower than $25 mark. From there on, it has already rallied almost 20 percentage point, but I still feel we have the momentum which is quite strong, and if it holds and rises above the $30 level, then in the next corrective phase we can indeed go for a buy trade. But given the fact that it had declined substantially in prior months, in the months leading up to October 2023, we will have to see how things shape up first, and if it gives us a buy on dips kind of strategy, we can indeed go for a long trade, for a buy trade in the HP's shares. From longer term, we have seen it correcting and consolidating for last 2 years, and this time also I don't really feel it is going to be much different. From the longer term to medium term perspective, things are not that bullish, and there are some concerns regarding the valuations at the current level as well. So we will have to keep looking for the opportunities to keep shorting it if it doesn't really rises much above prior swing high. So it is going to be key that the price zone around 30-31 should be acting as a near term resistance from the longer term to medium term perspective. If you are a short term trader, then it is still a buy on dip strategy can be applied. But if you are someone who not really trades but keeps investing and forgetting principle, then that is a bit concerning strategy here. I don't really feel we can invest and forget for the HP. The momentum is not that favorable here, and that is going to limit the profitability of such a strategy as well. So be cautious here. We will have to allow it some more time, but given its momentum being bearish, we will do well to keep looking for the opportunities to short if you are a short if you are a medium term to long term trader. But if you are a short term trader, then buy and dip strategy can still be applied. So that's my assessment looking at the different time frames for the HP Inc. stock. Prior to that, we also saw its earnings report where it has found some success in this challenging environment, but still the road to recovery is going to be long. The road to revival is going to be long, and for that, the time to get involved and go long, go and buy the shares from the longer term perspective is still to come. We will have to wait for next couple of months at least to see a strong momentum building up on the upside. Now it's time for me to sign off. Do come back tomorrow with a equally interesting stock to work with next time around. Thank you all for joining in. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.